You're listening to the 180 Podcast, real talk about education, where we discuss what's happening in our classrooms and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Alston, educator, mentor, and lifelong learner. Let's dive into the stories, struggles, and successes that shape our 180 school days. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 180 Podcast. This week, we have a very special guest joining the conversation. And fun fact, they actually inspired the name of this week's episode. I'm so excited to welcome Miss Staci Roach. Staci has been in education for 17 years. She holds 2 master's degrees, one in teacher leadership and another in reading. She has taught in Head Start and all grades K through 8th in both district and charter schools. I met Staci back in 2014 when we were teaching at a school in Arizona. At the time, she was teaching 5th grade and I was teaching 4th. The following year, we were asked, let's be honest here, we were voluntold to teach 3rd grade. And at the time, we both were not thrilled to be switching grade levels. However, we later learned that it was truly meant to be because it did not take long for us to become great friends. Staci comes with a lot of expertise and experiences. These days, Staci is a literacy specialist at a charter school where she has helped to turn their entire literacy program around, and she is also my partner in crime and co-founder of the charter school we are opening. The reason why Staci joins the conversation this week is that she has taught in 6 different schools in 4 different states, so she has seen various leadership styles and can share the pros and cons of all of them. But what I really appreciate about Staci is that she has always and will always have the mindset of students first. Every single decision she makes is always centered around what is best for students. And I have witnessed Staci do what many teachers have a hard time doing, and that is going right to admin to have those tough conversations. So please help me welcome to the conversation this week, Miss Staci Roach. Hello, Staci, and welcome to the conversation.
Hey, Dr. Alston. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. Okay, so before we dive into this week's topic, I start every episode with a short segment called Tap Dancing on My Nerves.
You know something? You are tap dancing on my last nerve. I don't like the choreography.
This is where you can share one thing that got on your nerves this week that you need to let out and let it go. Do you have anything for us this week that got on your nerves?
I mean, of course. No, tiny little thing. It's 6'7" related, but not 6'7", okay? Because I'm over it. That doesn't bother me. My kids love to say it, whatever. Enjoy it, kiddos. It doesn't bother me. But when we were adding to an anchor chart that had been hanging up in the room, and I pulled off a little Post-it to uncover the section we were going to write on, what do I see but a little 6'7" written right there? Exactly. So that was annoying. I went about my teaching. We did our stuff that we needed to do. And then afterward, we addressed, like, hey, guys, do you know what vandalism is? Because while this is, not harmful really, this is a perfect example of this doesn't belong to you. And you can't just go around writing on anything that you want to write on. And just kind of teachable moment, of if you do this out in public, that's vandalism and that you'll get in trouble for. So it had nothing to do with the 6'7", but it was, why do I have stuff written on my poster that I took time to create that does not belong to them?
All right. I was just getting ready to say, these kids don't know how long it takes us to put these anchor charts together. Yeah. And I know some of these are like quick little things or whatnot, but I know you, and I know you take some time to put it into these anchor charts. So I would be annoyed too. That's...
I let it out and I let it go, so it's okay.
That part. Okay, for me, it's small. So I had somebody come in my room to borrow something for another kiddo. No big deal. But they said they were going to bring it back, and they didn't. Now, this is something that I actually use for my small groups, so I really needed it back. And the fact that I had to go and chase it down really bugged me. If you're going to borrow something and you say you're going to bring it back, say what you mean what you say. Just bring it back. And I had to go and chase it down. So that really bothered me. It was small, but it really bugged me. But like you said, we're letting it out. and we're letting it go.
I think that was a good example. That would bother me too.
Okay, so let's dive into this week's topic. So goes the principal, so goes the school. And you actually inspired this week's title for this episode. Can you share with us a little bit about where did you get this saying from?
Yes, of course. That is not my saying, so I cannot take credit for it. I just love it. I think it is absolutely accurate. I was doing some webinar training. I honestly don't even remember what it was. I believe it did have to do with leadership. So leadership was the topic. But it came from Dr. Mitchell Brookins. I don't know all of his credentials, so I don't want to, give you any misinformation. But I believe the quote is one that he has said. And it just resonated with me. And so it's definitely one that I like to use, like to borrow, but of course giving credit where credit is due because it is not my saying.
Yeah, it's very true. And when you have said it to me before, I was like, that is so true because the principal literally steers this ship. Like you can have the best school because you have a really good leader, or you have a school that is struggling because your leader is struggling. And so it's such a great saying to set the tone for your organization, your school. Now, you have been in quite a few different schools, 6 schools to be exact. Can you tell us a little bit about the leaders you have had and the pros and cons to those leaders that you've had, their leadership styles?
Yeah. Yes, I think I'm fortunate to have the experience in multiple different schools. Not that I bounce around, but I do move. So there's that. Yeah, and no two leaders were ever the same. So it was enjoyable to see the different styles and learn from that. So this is kind of how I can explain. So when I first started teaching, my very first year, 2008, by the way, the principal, she was checked out. I really didn't see her very much at all. And being a brand new teacher and not having the principal consistently there was odd for me. I really didn't learn from that principal at all. But then I found out the next year she totally left the profession. So I really didn't, she was absent mainly.
Do you know how long she had been an admin?
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly, I didn't, I at this point, I can't even remember her name because there was such limited interaction there.
Oh, it was a long time ago.
Listen, it's not a memory issue. It's we didn't really interact, connect.
Which says a lot there too.
Yeah, it really does. And I get it, right? I get it. But that was still your school,
For sure.
Even if it was your last year, it was still your school and, but,
And this was your first year teaching,
my first
correct?
year teaching.
And
Yeah.
you rarely saw your admin.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah, so it was challenging. The second year at that same school, though, we got in a new principal. This was the only male principal I've actually had in all of my years. I think he was okay. I got to see some good work that he did with students who had challenging behaviors. I think that was a strong suit for him, was, really connecting with those students and especially male students, who were struggling. But I don't think he gave much in the way of supporting teachers, like in their growth. I can't really say that I learned, anything teacher-wise from him. But I learned, that in future schools, I want to see a principal or be a principal or have a principal that has that strong connection with students and can really help those who are challenged with, their behavior needs. After that, I went into Head Start. And I know that's a little bit different of a situation, but it's still school nonetheless, preschool. But person there. I do not know, the title, director or whatever it would have been. I would say that person was a manager, you know.
Yeah.
I other than the two times she came in to do observations, I had no interactions with her whatsoever. So I think she hired me and did my observations and that was it.
Yeah, she just checked boxes.
Yeah, she was on campus while we were open, so that was about that. Um, my next school, when I moved to Arizona, actually, that principal was on maternity leave at the beginning of the year, so I didn't get to see her as much. Um, I was I was happy when she did return. The teachers really enjoyed her. They had a lot of great things to say about her, um, which was nice because our interim principal that we had while she was out, that interim principal was a bit overbearing and kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I think I was lucky to just be on her good side, but she really didn't. She didn't come in and make any connections, and that's
Yeah.
really important as well. And so kind of really just came in and took over and from what I understood changed some things and didn't do a great job of explaining. When the original principal, when she returned, I was super excited. She jumped right into PDs. She was very personable, seemed really eager to support her teachers and students. But then she didn't make it through the rest of the year, and we had the interim principal back again. So up until then, I really was struggling with leadership.
Yeah.
I was so excited and then let down. After that, my next school, this was my first district school that I went into now, and that principal was present. She was consistent. She did her walkthroughs, consistently, but she didn't have the personality. She also was a bit overbearing or very much this is the way it's going to go. I said, like this is my mind is made up and this is how we're going to do things.
Yeah.
Um kind of wanted you to think that you had choices and things, but yet she had already made decisions and you kind of have to go with that. But she was always there and you knew when she was on campus because she was walking through and she had her expectations, and even if it was like, ooh, this is kind of tough, at least you knew the
Right.
consistency of it. So,
Right.
which is
Right.
kind of, sometimes I think back and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my example of leadership. Yeah. And then after that, the next principal, she's nice, but a little too lax, lacking experience and just, I think, struggles with the tough decisions sometimes, or saying no, or things like that. So not having that good balance. So that's my roundup of my leaders that I've had.
Okay, I agree. Let's go back to your principal who was very present. And I think present is so important because how do you know what your teachers are doing, what they're going through, what they need if you are not present in the classroom?
Yeah.
I've always believed that you cannot evaluate me effectively if you're not in my classroom but one or two times to do a scheduled observation. It just doesn't
Not
work that way.
Yeah, and not just evaluate, but also support. How can you
That
support me if you're not there consistently because you really don't know what it is that I need?
Yeah, yes. And then the leaders that are so lax, because you said that leader who was present but also wasn't personable and lacked those skills to be personable and
Hmm.
communicate and those things. But then you had leaders who were personable but then weren't present. Like there has to be a balance of both in order to be an effective leader.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, what are the qualifications of a strong leader?
It's the balance, right? It's being well-rounded. You have to have the personality side of it, but you also need the profession, the knowledge and the skill of the profession, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that I feel like now as an experienced educator, I'm frustrated that I haven't yet had a principal or a leader that has both. I've had some that it's like, hey, you have a great personality, you get along with people, you're easy to approach, we can ask you questions, you're open to things, that's fantastic. But yet you struggle to support with the instructional side of things or the management or behavior side of things. And then you have the opposite where it was the principal who was, they were consistent, they were in your room for the walkthroughs with the evals with all of that stuff, but yet not really approachable, and not somebody that you felt like collaborative with. And so I think that's where we're missing. I can only speak from my experience in my different schools, but I wonder if others are feeling the same way, where their leader isn't well rounded, they don't have both sides.
Yeah, and that kind of answers my next question of what do you think I'm so sorry, not teachers. What do you think school leaders are lacking and why is that?
Well, I think you still need to go back to qualifications, not just being, yes, the well-roundedness of it, of personality and the ability of the profession, but do you have experience? What is your experience? Have you been in lower grades and upper grades? Do you have multiple years of experience? Do you have multiple subjects? Me personally, now that I've been teaching, I've been in education for 17 years, I'm like, I don't really want a leader, a principal who doesn't have 10 years in the classroom,
That part.
because I thought after 6 years, man, hey, I know so much. I thought after 8 years, wow, I know so much. I thought after 10 years, ooh, I know so much, and I
Right.
just keep, every year, I just realize how much I didn't know and how much I can learn. So I think thinking about our qualifications of our principals, and what's really needed is really important, so that they have that overall experience and years. You need somebody who is not afraid of conflict also, right? Because as
Yeah.
a leader, you have to make tough decisions. And if you struggle to say no, or if you constantly are just trying to make everyone happy, that's not going to go well.
Not
But
hold teachers accountable.
yeah,
Teacher,
yeah,
staff, anybody accountable. You
exactly.
if you'll just be a pushover.
Right, right. I mean, if you think about it as teachers, you don't want a teacher who can't manage their class, right? Who doesn't have that classroom management strong. And I think a principal is the same thing, like you need to be able to manage your school, so all of the
Yes.
staff within your school, and that's not something that everybody can do, or it's a skill that needs to be developed.
Yeah, I agree. I've always said that like as teachers, we are in control, the master, the leader of our classroom, whereas the principal, the teachers, those are your students. The school is your classroom, and you've got to be managing all of your teachers, just like we have to differentiate and do
Hmm.
things and
Yeah,
scaffold things for our various students' needs. A principal has to do that with their
yeah,
teachers and
yeah.
be able to differentiate how you lead your
Hmm.
first year teacher, your fifth year teacher to your veteran 17-year teacher, because you can't give them the same thing. Just like
Yeah,
as teachers, we can't give all of our students the same thing.
yeah. And I think to do that, you have to be hands-on. You have to be in the classrooms. You have to be with your students, with your teachers, ready
Yes.
to step in. Is there a teacher that's needing support with management? How can you go in and model, or how can you go in and, like truly observe, specifically looking for, certain things? Or are there teachers who are struggling with some aspect of the curriculum or something academic wise? Well, then you also need to be able to go in and model strategies and whatnot. So you have to be able to be in there and be ready and knowledgeable and skilled on both, behavior sides, management, academics, the social, emotional, all of that,
Yeah.
I also, to me, it's really important to have a leader who's an advocate, right?
Mm,
Who advocates for both the teachers and the students, right? Always putting their teachers and students first, because as a leader, you are that middleman. You're
mhm,
between the teachers and the staff, and then whoever's above you. Whether
mhm.
it be a superintendent or a executive director or whatever it is.
The board, whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. You're in the middle, and you have to be willing and able and ready to advocate and go to bat for your teachers and your students. And
Mhm.
that takes a strong personality as well. So
Yeah.
being ready to handle that conflict that comes with that. I think those are all of the things that are needed. Those are the qualifications that are needed, right? And you asked what's lacking.
Yeah.
And it all goes into those pieces. So if they're not well rounded, if they have a strength in one or the other, but not both,
Yeah.
that's not a good thing. I personally don't know what comes into or what goes into training. What does it look like to become a principal? I don't know, because I haven't gone through that path, but
Mhm.
I think making sure that our principals are properly trained,
Yeah.
not only in the academics but also in advocating for other adults, managing conflicts,
Mhm.
like figuring out what type of leader you are, and what type of leader works best in a school.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, do principals have their own coach? Because
That's a very great
don't
question.
they need it just as teachers
Yeah.
need coaches? Wouldn't a principal need a coach?
That part.
Your first year or two in, you're trial and erroring so many
Mhm.
things, just like teachers do. So I wonder about that. I wonder about what are the qualifications, that say, okay, yes, you have reached a point where you can even apply to be a principal, or you can enter an admin credentialing program. Are
Mhm.
there Do different states have a certain number of years that you have to have been teaching?
Right.
I don't know. So I wonder
It
about those
should
types of
be.
things. I think about currently the state of teacher preparation programs, and if you are in the literacy world, that there's that shift there, and now our teacher preparation programs need to make that shift so our teachers come out more prepared for literacy. Well,
Mhm.
what does it look like for admin? Is there some kind of restructuring or shift that needs to happen there so that we have more admin who are well-rounded and ready? I don't know. Those
Yeah,
are
it's almost like it made me think about like student teaching, and almost we need
Mhm.
like an admin something, on
Right,
that
right.
realm of like, okay, you want to be an admin, you go through
Yeah.
this admin credentialing program, but then you
Mhm.
need to shadow another
Yeah.
admin who's been doing this so you can work through all of the ins and outs of what
Yeah.
it means to truly lead a school and not just manage a school.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
we both have not been on the admin side, so we don't know all the ins and outs
Mhm.
of what it takes to truly lead a school. And one of the things that I will say is that it takes more than one person. One
Yes.
person
Yeah.
cannot lead the school, do all of this administrative
Mhm.
stuff that you have to do, but then also be another term that you use a lot is an instructional leader who's
Yes.
actually in those classrooms
Yeah.
supporting the teachers and with instruction so that way they're better equipped for their students. And in order to do that, you have to have a strong team for that. And you just got to know that you cannot do it alone.
Yeah.
And with all of the expectations Again, don't know what all that entails, those expectations. And I imagine it's different for different schools, different charter schools, different districts, because districts, I feel like your hands are even more tied because you
Right.
have superintendents and people at district
Yeah.
office telling you to do different things and whatnot, and whatever those responsibilities are. So it is so important that you have a strong team. But with that, now this is my opinion again, leaders, if you are an evaluator, as an evaluator, you've got to be in these classrooms more. You can't take somebody else and say, please go do these observations, please go do this and go check on this teacher and stuff, which is great. They can have that support. But as an evaluator, you or whoever is the evaluator, principal, assistant principal, whatever, because I feel like that's just only principal and assistant principals. I don't know. Coaches aren't evaluators like
They
that.
should
They
not
shouldn't
be.
be,
No.
right? They shouldn't be. Specialists aren't evaluators. They
No.
should not be. So you as an evaluator, those that are evaluating these teachers, and I'm going to put instructional aides in there as well. You have to be in there on the ground often to
Hmm.
truly evaluate what these teachers are doing.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to that webinar I had mentioned in the beginning, right? They had made a point of leadership is not a position, right? And
Mm,
if you're trying to lead from a position,
yeah,
that's very isolating, and that's essentially being a boss versus a leader,
that
right?
part.
If you're leading from a position, from a title, then you're saying I'm in charge, I'm the head honcho, I know everything,
Mhm.
do it this way, and often when things don't work, then it's the others who get the blame, and it's
That's
not. But if you're leading from within, then that's when you're making those connections, right? And that's where you're showing, you're learning together, you are hands on, you say things like, oh, we can do this, we can try that, and so I think all leaders need to remember that
yeah,
this your title is not what makes you a leader.
a
your
leader.
title your title may make you the boss,
Hmm.
but being a boss is not the same as being a leader,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we need somebody who can separate the administrative stuff that has to get done
Hmm.
with leading on a day to day.
The day to day. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it reminded me of a leader I had a couple of leaders who, like you said, they lead from a title,
Hmm.
and it coming to curriculum, it shows me, it tells me, let me rephrase that. It tells me when a leader can only tell a teacher to use a curriculum as is, and you stick to that pacing and you go, don't deviate from it,
Yeah.
that tells me that you have a lack of experience in the
Right.
classroom.
Yeah.
Because a leader knows, and you've said this, a curriculum does not teach students, teachers teach students. And for a leader, and I'm going to use that in quotations, a leader to come in and say, you need to do this as is,
Hmm.
that's code for me. Like, you don't know, one, you don't have the experience to come into these classrooms and truly support. So maybe you need to go back in, spend some more time in here, because we know that not all one size fits all. So for
Hmm.
you as the leader to tell me, I have to do this as is, but then also at the same time wonder, well, how come students aren't growing
Yeah.
and making their growth, and we're closing the distance from standards? Well, you can't do that if I'm using a curriculum as is. That tells
Mhm.
me you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to go back into the classroom and get some more miles under your belt,
Yeah.
so that way you can truly be a supportive collaborator in this. Because a leader, in my opinion, a leader and teachers should be collaborators.
Yes.
This isn't, you shouldn't dictate and tell me you need to do XYZ at this pace and don't
Yeah.
deviate and keep going. That's not leading. That's just managing.
Yeah. Yeah. So curriculums don't teach, teachers teach, right? That Louisa Moats, that's where that comes from. Again, not from me, but I love it. And along with what you are saying, that if a leader is asking you to stick to a curriculum and don't deviate and whatnot, not only is that lacking that experience and that knowledge, but that's also not advocating, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
say that a leader has to be able to do. You're not advocating for your teachers and your students, right? You are, for whatever reason it is, maybe your higher ups are saying, no, this is what we spent money on and this is what we're going to use, but that's not students first, and that's not teachers first, and that's
No.
how it always needs to be, is students and teachers first. And we need leaders who are strong enough and knowledgeable enough to be able to advocate for what it is that teachers and students need. And they have to be willing to say, hey, we like this curriculum for pieces. We like to be able to use it as, a framework, a reference, a resource, a guide, but not one that it's you're glued to it and
Yeah.
you can't move away. When we as educators know, not all of our students are learning at the same pace.
That
And
part.
if you're asking me to move everybody at the pace of the curriculum, we are leaving so many students behind, and that is not okay. So yes, our leaders need to have that experience to be able to say to whoever it is, no, when I was in the classroom and I had a curriculum that was given to me, I was able to use it like XYZ, and I was able to adapt and modify and whatnot without, of course, lowering the rigor.
That
We
part.
have to keep
Yeah.
our rigor up, but we have to be able to differentiate for our students and review when needed and spiral and pause and go back to something that we just taught because it's not, not enough students were able to grasp it.
Yeah. And this is for even the best curriculums, because we've both experienced some really terrible curriculums, but we've also experienced some really good curriculums. And even the best of the best, you can't use them as is. You have to be able to adjust as needed. Now, with talking about leaders and how they are, and showing up for their teachers, how do you feel that leaders, principals, school administrators, and school managers, how do you feel they play a part in teacher burnout?
I think that they are a big factor, actually. Um, I don't remember exactly what it was that I heard or that I read or something one time, but it talked about burnout also being because of like who it is that you work for. If you are doing all this work for somebody else and it doesn't align, that can really add to burnout. And so if you are putting in this work as an educator and you're doing all these things for your students, but yet you have all of these other expectations that have to be met by your quote unquote leader, and it doesn't align with yourself or with even the school or whatever, that definitely adds,
Yeah.
to the burnout. But also going back to what I said, that a leader should be in their hands on. If they're not, and everything is expected to be taken care of by the teachers and other staff, then we're overworked, we're overwhelmed and overloaded, and that's going to add to our burnout as well. So I 100% think that leadership either positively or negatively, contributes to burnout or, makes it worse or lessens it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I heard something a little while ago that teachers don't leave schools they leave poor leadership.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
and
totally see that.
mhm,
I think, thinking back, there were places that it's like, man, I would have loved to have stayed here for
agreed.
my students, for the community, for my coworkers,
Yep.
but this leadership is not it. And the ship's going down because of the
Yeah.
leaders, and I don't want to be on that sinking ship. And that's hard to walk away when
Mm,
you love the job, number one, but you love the community, you love the students, you love the
students,
teachers.
yeah.
But yeah, leadership definitely can make or break that. And I think it goes the other way too, where you can have a leader who is doing everything that they can. They're really in there, they're putting in the work. They seem to be pretty well rounded, but maybe they've come in when things need to change, and change
Hmm.
takes a while, and change is messy, and change is hard. But if you see that leader putting in that work day to day, hands on, that would encourage me to want to stay. Even though things are a
Yeah.
mess right now, I would want to stay and collaborate with that
Yeah.
leader, and
You
say,
see
yeah,
the
what can
potential.
we, yeah, exactly, the potential, what can we do together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's shift gears just a little bit because we talk about the pain points, the problems. So let's focus a little bit on the solutions and the shift that needs to happen to improve our leadership in the schools. And so, what do you think needs to happen to have more stronger leaders in our schools?
I'm going to say, I think it goes back to what are the qualifications, as far as how many years you've been teaching, where do you have your experience, subjects, grade levels, and whatnot. So, what are those qualifications? What do they look like, to be even admitted into an admin program, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how your teacher education program worked, but for mine, we had to have a certain GPA, and we had to, maintain certain standards to be admitted into the teacher education program and to stay in it. So, what does that look like for administrators? What is it that they have to be able to do? Or is it just anybody? It's like, "Oh yeah, cool, you've been a teacher, now you can, yeah, go ahead." Just because a teacher has been at a certain school for a while doesn't necessarily mean that they are qualified to lead the school.
That
So I think looking at the
part.
qualifications and the training is really what I think would make a big difference.
Yeah. Um, do you think that it is a good idea? But how do you feel about admin, people becoming admin at the school they were teaching at?
I don't think I don't think there should be any rule against it. I think that yes, that is a possibility. But I think everybody has to know the challenges that are going to come with that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I think pros are, the families, the community, the students,
Mm-hmm.
the structure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no learning curve there.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden you will be the boss will say, you will be the boss of people who were previously your coworkers,
Yeah,
where you were that level playing field, and now you have stepped up, and that can be challenging, you
absolutely.
know.
Not impossible, but it's just very challenging. I can see.
Exactly, and I think that's where communication and openness and allowing everybody to process is
Yeah.
really important. And I think also talking with the teachers who are in there and say, these are who we have coming up as possible leadership. We are also hiring from outside, or,
Mm-hmm.
where we have the job open to the outside, but we have the job open for those within.
Yeah.
And, I think just being honest and saying this is who from within is applying, and allowing feedback.
Yeah.
If there's anything
Yeah.
with allowing feedback. Um, you might even, need to bring in like HR and say like, okay, go ahead and give us your concerns, your worries, your, whatever, so they can be acknowledged
Yeah.
and, talked about. But I don't think that it should be banned or anything like that.
No, no,
I
no,
think
no, no,
it's
no.
just
Yeah.
it's a situation that needs to be handled with care.
Yeah. It's just it's
Uh-huh.
a common thing to see, which
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing where schools trust and want to
Hmm.
promote teachers within
Yeah.
who have the qualifications, who have shown that they can handle such a huge
Hmm.
responsibility. But most important, they want it.
Hmm.
Oftentimes we hear people talk about, well, I really didn't want to, and I kind of was just brought into it, and you know, leadership, but then also just education in itself. This is not a job where you just kind of like, let's just kind of see how this
Yeah.
goes.
The
Like,
passion has to be there.
there you go. You took the words right out of my
Yeah.
mouth. You have to have the passion to
Hmm.
even get into the classroom, and you even have to have bigger passion to step out of the classroom to lead
Yeah.
a bunch of classrooms.
Yeah.
Like it, you have to have that because
Mm.
this job ain't easy. It's not for the weak. And
And
you passion is what's going to get you up every day and get in the car and go to that
yeah.
school.
It's also a certain skill set too, though, because leading leading children is not the same as leading adults,
Yep,
And
I've learned
just
that.
because you were a great teacher, does that necessarily mean you would be a great admin? I don't think I don't think that's 100% transferable because, children are one thing and adults are another
Yes.
too. So I think
Yes.
that that's a factor that needs to be taken into consideration is, do you have that ability to lead adults?
Yeah. What kind of leader do you feel you are or will be?
I am in progress,
Ooh,
right?
we love that.
I am not in, I do not consider myself to be in a position of leadership, you know?
Does that get confused sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the school that I'm at, shifting from gen ed teacher to literacy specialist, some people, I feel as though it's a lateral move,
Yeah.
right? I am the same as my colleagues, my gen ed teacher colleagues, my
Teacher, yeah.
access ed teacher colleagues, right? My
Access ed for
goal is
those, I'm sorry, I just
still,
want to put in there access ed for some is special education because not everybody calls it access ed.
thank you. Um, my goal is still, what can we do to help our students grow, you
Always.
know? And I consider myself a collaborator with
Yeah.
my colleagues. I am in no way an evaluator. I am in no
Yeah.
way a step above. In none of those things, and nor do I want to be. Not at my school. That's not my goal at my school currently. I want to continue to collaborate with my colleagues, and always think about what is it that we can do to continue to push our students, push ourselves to do better, and in turn push our students to do better, and overall improve our literacy, like as teachers and as students, and or for our students. But as a gen ed teacher, I always felt like I would do the same thing, you know what I mean? Like as a gen ed teacher, let's collaborate. You want to come watch me, I can come watch you. We can give each other feedback. And so now I feel like it's the same thing, just without me having my own classroom.
Yeah.
So in the future, I say that my leadership is in progress because I think you can be a teacher leader, and I think that's what I would consider myself, is a teacher leader, because I'm happy to be somebody that my colleagues come to for advice, for support. That makes me feel good when they do, because I want to always be supportive. I've learned about advocating for students, for myself, for my colleagues. And I think that's a big part of leadership. Well, I've already said that. That's a big part of leadership, is being able to advocate. And so I think that's one of my strengths. I have the knowledge and about instruction. But for me as a leader in future years, I want to make sure that I can make tough decisions and handle the conflict and be able to say no when it needs to. So I don't feel as though I am yet that well-rounded leader that I would want to see in others. So I
Yeah,
am in progress.
I love that. Are you familiar with the leadership compass?
You have mentioned that, so that's the only thing that I know, is that you have mentioned it before.
Yeah, and so briefly, the leadership compass is, if you think of a compass, the north, south, east, west, and you have the north, which is considered your closer. They're decisive and assertive. They're focused on the outcomes. You have your east, which is your visionary. They're creative. They're innovative, focused on the options. The south, which is the nurturer, supportive, caring, focused on the process. And then you have the West, which is the analyst, and they're thorough, practical, focused on the details. And that one really stands out for me, for you, as being the West. But I can also see a little bit of everything, north, south, east, west, for you.
Mhm.
I kind of feel that way for myself, more of like the
But
southeast,
but
kind of like
shouldn't a good leader have a little bit of all? Because
that's
you
what I
need
was
to
gonna
be
say.
well-rounded.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
just getting ready to say we need to have a little bit of everything. And where
Hmm.
you're lacking, build
Yeah,
a team
exactly.
that
Yeah.
hits all of these other components of the
Yeah.
compass.
Yeah.
Which is why I was saying, like, you cannot do this by yourself. Like,
No, right.
and we've been in schools that has like one leader, but then they're
Hmm.
delegating things to other people,
Hmm.
which we know how that is. You delegate to other people, then their jobs, they ain't
Hmm.
not doing everything on their jobs and whatnot. So, those that are listening, our listeners out there, if you are not familiar with the leadership compass, please, please, please look into the leadership compass. It's a small little quiz for you to take, and then you can figure out where you fall on that leadership compass and what you bring to the table, but then also how you can build your team who fits all of these components of the leadership compass.
Well, now I want to take that quiz.
I highly recommend you do it, and I'm very curious to see. Like I said, I think you're the West because you're very analytical. One of the things that I truly appreciate about you is how you don't make a decision until you have all the information. You have thought about that information. Sometimes you even need to sleep on that information, and it really challenges me, who's can be impulsive sometimes. I'm like, okay, what a decision, let's make it. Okay, give me the information and then let's just go, without giving myself time to truly just pause and think, okay, let's really think this through before we make any kind of decision. So you really help balance me out in that. So I truly appreciate that. Before we wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you would like to leave us with, when it comes to school leaders and how leaders should do more leading and not managing?
Um, I think more of a reflection question
Oh, I love it.
for current and aspiring leaders. And that would be, what are your strengths?
Yeah.
What are your areas of growth? And what are you doing to grow?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Lifelong learners, right?
That
Educators
part.
should be lifelong learners, and admin is the same. So, what are
Yeah.
you doing to grow?
Yeah. If you are still doing the same thing year one, even from year one to year two, because year two, you should be making some adjustments. Are you growing? But the more that you are in this, the longer you are in this, I should say, and you think back, am I still doing the same stuff that I was doing year one? You're not growing. You're
Yeah,
not.
could you
And that
imagine being a teacher? Oh my gosh, I could not even imagine doing in year 17, I could not imagine doing the same things that I
same
was
stuff that
doing
I was in
even
year
in year
one.
5, right?
Right. That
Yeah.
part. That
Yeah.
part. Because we're growing, we're learning, we
Mhm.
learn new things, and education is evolving so much. Like I've been doing this 13 years now, and how it was 13 years ago to today is completely different. But we cannot skip over to how it was when both of us first started teaching
Yeah.
and then COVID hit, because
Mhm.
you've got pre-COVID and post-COVID. Those are
Yeah.
two different worlds that we're working with here, but that's
Yeah.
another topic for another day.
I thought of another question though. I think I would ask admin is
Oh,
how are you staying connected? How are you staying
oh,
connected to teaching?
yeah.
Because that's important.
Yes. Yes. Like I've always said that like admin should spend they have to go back to the classroom.
Yeah.
I get that like it might not be for a whole entire year or whatever. If you can get a week, because you can't do a day. A day is not gonna work. If you
Hmm.
can get a week where you can get into these classrooms and truly see and live what the
Yeah.
teachers are living with day in and day out, that
Yeah.
will help you stay connected. But
Hmm.
a bigger thing is spending time in those classrooms. Don't
Yeah.
just walk through, don't just come through and just show face. Spend some time, ask the kids what they're doing, get to know what the teachers are doing, sit down for a little bit, like kick your
Hmm.
shoes off, but get in there with us so that way you can lead us.
Agreed.
There's that. Well, Stacy, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I know this is going to be the first of many that you will come in, because you have so much experience, so much expertise that I truly value, and absolutely loved having you on this week's episode. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us this week.
Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it and I look forward to being part of the conversation again.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the 180 podcast. Follow the show on Instagram at 180_podcast and email your stories to 180podcast.edu@gmail.com. Make sure you follow and share with another educator who's running on empty. Together, we're turning things around, one conversation at a time.